We've covered this several. We've covered many stories on the situation going on in the Gulf Coast, in particular Louisiana. The corridor of Black and Brown communities along the Mississippi River between New Orleans and Baton Rouge has more than 150 industrial facilities that produce a quarter of the nation's petrochemicals. The Federal Energy Regulatory Commission is on the verge of permitting an expansion of operations on the 500-acre space and two pipelines that run between Texas and Louisiana, mainly affecting rural minority areas. Roishetta Ozane, the founder of the Vessel Project of Louisiana, joins me for a discussion on how we can stop this from happening. Thank you so much for joining us. Can you kind of give us some insight on these projects and how they will affect Black and poor communities?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I apologize. I'm currently in the airport headed to Dubai for the UN conference on climate change. But yes, I am Roishetta Ozane, the founder of the Vessel Project, and currently we are fighting several new proposed fossil fuel extractive industries that are slated to come to the Gulf Coast. The LNG build out in the United States, which involves the extraction of gas, LNG, which actually stands for liquefied natural gas, but as we found out, it's what it is methane gas that's being polluted. It poses a significant risk and many challenges, and the LNG expansion contributes to climate change, as the process of extracting and transporting methane gas through fracking and supercooling releases harmful emissions. The Biden administration and FERC have approved the expansion, despite studies showing that exporting LNG could be even worse for the environment than coal. What you see in the videos and pictures that I've given several tours is right behind my home where me and my 6 children live. My children suffer with things like asthma and eczema, which are respiratory and skin conditions. My sister, my baby sister, was facing cancer and is now in remission. None of my other siblings or myself had ever had cancer before, but this is my baby sister and one of my mom's only children who spent the majority of her adolescence in Louisiana, as we are originally from Mississippi. So there have been several things that brought me to fighting against these industries and understanding the interconnectedness of this environmental fight, how it's playing a part on our health, on the climate, and on the Gulf Coast of Louisiana.
And it's interesting because I remember back probably 20 years ago, there's all this discussion about how liquid natural gas would be safer alternative to petroleum, to oil exports, etc. Can you talk a little bit about you talked directly about how it's affected your family. Can you talk about how this industry has affected the region there and the health issues that are affecting many parts of the population?
Yes, of course. Thank you for that question. So, as you stated, 20 years ago, everybody was talking about how LNG was going to be this safer, healthier alternative, this cleaner energy. 20 years ago also happens to be the time when I moved to Louisiana and I first saw all of this industry. I had never seen industry like this in the Delta of Mississippi, growing up in Ruleville, home of Fannie Lou Hamer. So when I got here to Louisiana, I had so many questions because I saw all of the emissions and all of the pollution, and I wanted to know what it was. But at that time, there was this site being built called Cameron LNG. Well, I live very close to Cameron LNG, and I've noticed, as I stated before, my own baby sister is one of the baby of my mom's 5 children, and the only one who has experienced cancer, and we live close to these industries. Well, my children, the youngest 2, are the ones who are dealing with the asthma and the eczema, as my other older children aren't, and they lived some of their time in Mississippi. So that wasn't adding up for me. I started to talk to different scientists with the organization Healthy Gulf. I began to work with Healthy Gulf, and I understood more of what LNG was actually doing. LNG is emitting things like methane into the air, ethylene dichloride, and other pollutants because of the way that it is processed and the way that it is shipped. And so this makes it more harmful than coal because of the way that it has to be super cooled and processed, and then it's packaged and it's shipped across. It also increases heavy traffic, tanker trucks coming through our communities, more rail and trains going through. We've had a train derailment to happen. In fact, the trail derailment that happened in Ohio was carrying the stuff that comes from my community at Westlake Chemical that's polluting my community. So all of these things were just like light bulbs that were going off in my head, and I was like, wait a minute, does people know what's happening, how people in communities are impacted? There is also an environmental injustice aspect to LNG, as big oil and gas corporations intentionally locate their plants and terminals in and near low income and black communities and other communities of color. We know that these type of communities have very little resources, very little access to public health, public transportation. And so when folks are getting sick, it takes them longer to get to a doctor and see what the issues are, see what's causing it. And so we saw numbers going up in cancer rates in children. We saw numbers going up in asthma, numbers going up in other respiratory conditions. And then in my own personal children, again, my daughter, who is 11 years old, who you can find her story in Teen Vogue, she talks about being diagnosed with Giannotti-Crosty syndrome. I'm talking about a condition that the doctors had to pull out the book and look this up because they hadn't seen something like this in several years. And so these are the type of things that we're seeing, and these are the type of things that I'm advocating against and trying to educate the community on what LNG actually is. It is a false solution. It is greenwashing.
Well, the Biden administration has talked a lot about the investments they've made in quote unquote green energy and the Green New Deal, as it would be. What can people do who are experiencing similar situations in their own communities? What are some organizations they can reach out to? What are some things that you're working on that can help people who are in a similar situation?
What we're working on right now is there are more than 30 proposed new terminals, 30 proposed new facilities for the Gulf Coast region. That's including Louisiana and Texas. One of those major facilities is CP2, Venture Global's Calcasieu Pass 2. If this facility is approved, it would be the largest LNG facility in the United States. It would emit more methane into the atmosphere, further exacerbating our climate crisis. Right now, there is a climate change conference happening in the UAE, in Dubai. That is where I'm heading, and I am going to bring the message that we need to phase out fossil fuels. The only true solution is a fast, fair, and equitable phase out of fossil fuels. Now, that does not mean that we want these false solutions like carbon capture and storage or this direct air capture that the Biden administration has invested money in. What needs to happen is that groups, organizations, the federal government needs to come down to communities like mine, like other communities in the Deep South, communities along the Gulf Coast. Talk to the people who live there. Ask us what the solutions are. What we need is renewable energy. We need affordable solar for everybody. Talk to the folks in the community and understand that we can't even plant and grow our own food, but yet if we could get more green spaces and more money to plant community gardens, those are the type of things that we need in our community.
Absolutely. Well, we are going to keep you in our prayers. Your travels to Dubai there. One of my favorite places to go to. Keep us updated on the changes you're making. Ms. Ozane, thank you for joining us.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment. Folks, get your hair ready for the holidays. Curl Prep Natural Hair Solutions at curlprep.com is an amazing organic line for curls, locks, braids, twists, and even those wigs and extensions. Women, men, and children are loving this line. First of all, look at the video and you be the judge. Folks, line up to see this product in action at hair shows, and when they take a seat to try it, they don't believe it's their hair. You can buy the products at curlprep.com. It works on all hair types. Use the code Roland, that's right, lowercase letters, to get a 15% discount. Parents, you can also remove the ouch. You will love this system because you can comb the product through your child's hair with your fingers. That's right. Seasoned Saints also loving the product. It's all at curlprep.com. Again, use the code Roland, lowercase letters, to get a 15% discount. It's a great stocking stuffer. You won't believe it's your hair. Again, curlprep.com.